I'm the MD of Crest Sage Limited, and we basically provide IT services and solutions to corporate organizations, primarily across Nigeria. We've also participated in developing digital literacy education organizations across the country, and collaborated with the University of Nigeria to set up the university incubator called RA Nigeria Hub in 2016, which is actually the first university embedded incubator in the country. And I'm happy to be here to discuss some of the topics lined up for today. Thank you very much.
Okay, CFA.
Yeah, Ikem can go next. Ikem Delin.
Thank you, CFA. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nkem Dibel, and I'm the CEO of FutureSoft, a digital marketing and digital technology company based out of Lagos. I'm very interested and passionate about building the technology ecosystem in Nigeria and across the continent. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkem. Folarunsho.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Folarunsho Aliu. I'm the Managing Director of Telnet Nigeria Limited, the digital transformation organization in Nigeria. On a personal note, I'm passionate about moving the nation from just being a group of people who have potential to actualizing those potentials we have. And only people have potentials that can release such. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
All right, Hansen Johnson.
Everyone, my name is Hansen Johnson. I'm calling in from Uyo, Start Innovation Hub. At Start Innovation Hub, we are a tech-free incubation center. We are also building capacity of local talents to make them globally relevant. I, as a person, am the country mentor to Google developers in Nigeria. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, panel members. I think that let me just lay the ground, not rules, but more like the foundation. I think that we have a wide range of people gathered here, from university students to business owners to traders. So we want you to be as simple and as real as possible. And I think that in even understanding where you are today, the audience would like to know who you are, where you started, and what you have achieved in the computer field, So we would have a set of questions from the feedback, but maybe we'll start with that, a brief about how you got into this line of trade, how you're leveraging computer and leveraging the digital world to create what you're creating and build what you're building, so that some people here can get inspired from your story. So maybe we'll go anti-clockwise this time around. So starting with Hansen.
You got me on the spot. All right. So I have a story, just like every other person. What really happened when I was growing up, especially during my university days, I've been looking for a way to do my industrial attachment. And because I was in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, everything I was looking for was in Lagos. And I had no one in Lagos. So even if I'm able to afford a training in Lagos, where will I stay for 3 months, for 6 months? What will I eat for that period? So I felt we have a couple of other young people who is like me. And that shows that talent is here. Talent is in every other place, but opportunity is not everywhere. It's only in some places. So I saw that as a gap that needed to be filled. So after my graduation, I decided I'm going to create that platform that I did not have and see whether we'll be able to make talents that are locally based have access. Thank God for internet as a platform, have global access even from wherever they may be. So that's how we started Innovation Hub was there. And today we are happy that we have been able to influence thousands of young people who are able to stay here in Rio, and they are contributing to success stories globally, no matter where you are, especially if you are interested in working with technology products. So fast forwarding to this particular period, it wasn't easy. Internet was a challenge. The people you need to work with, which it was a challenge. You could have an idea, you don't have someone to partner to realize your dreams. You may work on something, and when you have challenges, you may want to go online, join a couple of fora to ask questions. And particularly for me, the questions you will ask then, you might be asking that you're having challenges with setting up a particular SDK, and somebody is coming to ask you, instead of answering your question, what kind of operating system are you using, or what kind of IDE are you using, or can you send a screenshot? So, and in most cases, you are going to a cyber cafe to post that particular question, and when you come back, it may take 2 days for you to be able to go back to see the answer. And instead of seeing the answer, you are seeing another question. So in some cases, it may take you 2 weeks to be able to ask a question for someone to understand before answering you that question. But today we are not doing that route anymore, because if you look your left or your right in a community, in a hub where you have like minds working on the same thing you are trying to achieve, there's no way you're not going to meet someone who has already had that problem and has a solution, and you get that solution and move ahead. So what you would have achieved in 2 weeks, these days we achieve within a few minutes or hours. That's, in summary, what the story has been like until I met CFA.
I see. Okay. Okay. So we move to Valeria, then Kem, then Charles.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I'd like to say, starting as a child, I was always intrigued with the things that worked, and I was more interested in how to, to make life better for people around me. And that's because I grew up in a home, I lost my father quite early in life, and I saw my mother struggle to bring up 5 children alone. And for me, that always meant that there was some form of crusading that affected everything I did. So growing up, I wanted to study something that was different, that would make life easier. Back then, it was only Ife that was doing computer engineering, that is that I remember. Others were either doing computer science and all that. And then ignorance, more like, was played a major role in what I studied. If I tell you the main reason why I studied computer engineering, I'm sure most of us will laugh. But thank God there's more information right now. Because I thought electrical engineers were basically those who run wires around. I thought mechanical engineers were not even good enough to repair their cars. I thought civil engineers were always standing around and bricklayers could build a house. I got admission when I was in year 4, from 4, to study material engineering. And I didn't take it because I felt, you were going to be picking nylon and all that on the road. So ignorance played a major role in, eventually, the only thing I thought was unique back then was computer engineering. And I left, in fact, 2 admissions before I eventually studied computer engineering. So for me, ignorance is a big problem I see. And I keep talking about releasing potential to actualization. One of the problems I've seen is ignorance, even in the midst of so much information. So it's about, for me, it's about correcting the basis of ignorance, even for those who should know, because you are who you are based on what you know and based on what you work on. So more often than not, for me on a daily basis, my passion is helping people to, and myself as well, to confront what you think you know, dig deeper into it, understand that you'd take time to appraise and also question what you think you know, so that the basis of your decision making is sound. Because I've taken a lot of decisions in life that I thought were the best growing up, But I realized with hindsight that if you had better information, you would have done better things. So that summarizes me as a person and the things that drive me. I don't know if I've answered the question. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, did you hear me, sir?
Okay, if it's not around, I can take it from here as his co-moderator. And thank you for allowing Shaw for that. We'll go to Nkem. And Nkem, if you're able to please just share your personal story about how you came to be where you are and how you started FutureSoft. Thank you.
Thank you, Ify. Okay, so I think I've been on my tech journey since I was probably 3 years old. Some of you may know Chris Waje is my dad, and anyone who does know him knows that he eats, breathes, and sleeps technology. With 3 girls, we all work in tech, so I think his work was done well and successfully. I think for him, it was a matter of this is the future and this is what, you know, you should have these skills, right? So when I was 16, he got us a programming teacher and we'd had the computer all along. So, and the computer for him was never to play, right? My mom was more the let's go play games on the computer. When dad is not around, my dad was go and sit down and do your work, right? And learn something, know how to type, know how to, you know, write. I mean, at the beginning it was command line, right? So it was DOS, so it's like learn how to know how to, you know, type command line. And then obviously once there was Windows, right, it was more of, okay, now you need to learn how to use the Office packages, how to use Photoshop, and how to do your homework and your research, you know, using tools like Encarta and things like that. And I think that was really sort of what laid the foundation for my interest in technology. When I was searching for a course to study, I came across Bioinformatics, which is a double major in computer science and biology. And I was always really good at sciences. So, and biology was my favorite subject. So this was like, oh, wow, this is a way that I can study computer science, but not just computer science. And so I studied bioinformatics. I worked in research as a developer. I worked in the Department for Statistical Genetics at the Max Planck Institute in Germany. After that, I worked in a pharmaceutical company. And at some point, I came back to Nigeria under the guise of, I want to come and do my NYSC. And while I was doing that, I worked in a startup and I had never been in like this type of startup before, right? So, I mean, our pharma company was a startup, but it was incubated by the institute that I worked in before. So it was big, you know, we had nice facilities. It was not a startup. It was like a fancy startup. This was still kind of fancy, but it was definitely a startup. Lots of young people, big vision. And at some point I felt like, okay, you know what, I can do this myself. So after my NYSC, I took 3 months to sort of think about what I wanted to do and write my business plan. And one of the things that irked me a lot moving back to Lagos was the fact that you couldn't find anything on Google. So you would search for Italian restaurant in Lagos and it comes back with 0 results found. And for me, this was like, how do businesses do business if they don't have a footprint and they're not actually visible digitally? So FutureSoft was basically to solve that problem. And we started as a web development and hosting company, and over the years evolved. We're 13 this year, and it's been a very interesting journey that has taken us across at least 20 different industries. We've worked with over 170 different clients. We've trained over 1,500 executives and board members on digital transformation, digital marketing, social media strategy, and things like that, right? And I think we're still true to our vision, which is basically to tell the African enterprise story and put businesses on the map and ensure that they can find partners, clients, and, you know, just people who can help them scale their businesses using digital. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkem. So I'm going to sort of summarize what our speakers have said today, because they all have unique stories. So with Nkem, there was already a background with her father being one of the, tech gurus in Nigeria at the time, and just helping with that foundation. And with Folarin Shaw, not having lost his father, having to see his mom struggle as a single mom to bring him up, and then just sort of modeling his way through until he found his own niche. And despite everything he says about ignorance, being able to self-educate himself to a stage where he's able to become a problem solver using tech. And with Hanson, Hanson talks about how he was looking for externships and internships and was not able to find any in his location, and then had to then decide to build or solve that problem by building his hub so that he can attract talent and keep it local at the same time. So every one of you has a unique story. And so my question to you, the entire panelists, is, well, you all have these various different stories. And Nkem, in yours, it's very unique because you had that sort of background that helped you get where you are. So talk to people who don't have your same background, who don't have Chris Uwajas, their dad, and who don't have that foundation and are looking to get into tech now. What should they be doing?
I think in technology, the only thing you need is skills and knowledge. And the beauty of it is that today, that is actually freely available, and the access to digital skills has become much more democratized than it was 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, you needed all these big Java books and introduction to algorithm books that you don't need today anymore. Today, there's so much stuff available online. There are platforms that can teach you how to code, where you can teach yourself. I think the main thing is really understanding, sort of how technology works as a bigger concept, right? And what digital economy actually means, right? Because I think there are many roles that you can play within that digital economy. It's not just, sort of, oh, you have to be a programmer or a coder. I think now there's so much more differentiation. You can be a project manager, a product manager, you can be a product designer, you can do UI, UX only, so there's so much stuff that is available. So I think my advice for young people would be to find a technology company where they can do an internship so that they can get a look behind the scenes, right? And I think it's never too early. I would start in secondary school so that you can then sort of figure out whether that is something that you're excited to do and interested to do, right? And then continue to do that as you study, right? So even if you choose mass communications as a field of study, right? I think that there's such a big intersection in every single industry with technology that we must continue to learn digital skills regardless of whether we're actually studying computer science or any other tech-related course or not, right? Digital skills are skills that everybody is going to need. Technology is going to become more and more ingrained in our day-to-day lives and in our careers, and will basically be the foundation for the skills that you need to be competitive, right? So you can't run away from it. If you want to study philosophy, that's fine, go for it, right? But you still need digital skills. And my experience is that in as much as I think formal education is fantastic and gives a really good foundation, my personal learning has come on the job. I worked pretty much all through university, and all the skills and all the experience that I had after graduating was not from school. It was from the job, from actually applying the things that we were learning, right? And learning even we were being taught at university by myself, simply because I had to solve problems, right? Once you have problems to solve and you can apply skills that you've learned, then it becomes much more practical. And I think that's really where we can accelerate our growth as individuals, right? And this means that as a young person, you really need to go and against the norm, right? In Nigeria, we don't have a culture of schooling and working. At least most people don't, right? A lot of parents that will say, no, go and read your books and focus. And I think that this is a really big mistake, right? I think that this is where a lot of parents are going wrong. I think that there is enough time to school and to work. And I think it has to be meaningful work. And I think that especially with virtual and remote opportunities, there are much more opportunities, even on a global scale, to participate within the digital economy and do an internship. Even if you're doing data entry, as basic as that is, right? You will learn a lot from how data is entered, how it is structured, how it is segmented and things like that, right? So find those type of opportunities where whether they're paid or not is, I think, secondary. I think it's more about the actual work experience, right? The more hands-on experience you can get under your belt, the more ready you're going to be for the workforce. When people come through my door and they're just like, yes, I've studied and, I've done my NYC, but I've never worked a day in my life. I'm like, that's great, but I'm not going to hire you because that's just too much work, right? I want someone who has done at least a couple of internships, who has had some summer job, even whether you worked in a shop or something else, right? That is what I want to see on your CV. And that is the majority of employers, especially within the technology space now, right? We want to see that you've volunteered. We want to see that you are involved, that you're helping your community. So I think it's really important to make sure that you put those things on your CV. And it's not just for, Kem said, to get a job, I have to have this. No, it's for yourself. It's an investment. And I think that that's where a lot of young people sort of go wrong, right? Where they feel like, well, but all I need to do is go to university. And that's not true, right? There's much more. I think you really need to stop waiting for somebody to spoon feed you, and really take your destiny and your education and the knowledge that you want to acquire in your own hands and really learn like your life depends on it. The truth is that you have more capacity to learn beyond what you're being taught at school. The second truth is that what you're being taught at school most of the time is outdated and irrelevant, which means that you just need it to pass the exam, but it's not going to be helpful in any way in your future, right? Some of the fundamentals, yes, but I mean, on a broader scheme, simply no, right? So that means that you really have to figure out, how do I get myself ready for the world? Because you have to remember, your peers abroad are competing against you now, right? I don't need to hire a Nigerian. I can hire someone from Bangladesh at the same rate that I would pay a Nigerian, and get higher quality of output, right? Whether I will do that or not will depend on, sort of my own values and what's important to me. But the truth is, you're competing globally. So you have to be ready for that global market. And if you sit back and say, oh yeah, I can learn computer later, then you're simply, sort of shooting yourself in your own foot. So my sort of message is, take charge of your own life, take charge of your learning, take charge of your education, and sort of be the captain of your own boat. You will determine how far you go.
Thank you, Nkem. Thank you. Very well said.
Hello, sorry, Ify. I think you missed out one of the panelists, Charles. He didn't give his background. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Charles. So sorry. Charles, sorry. Let's just go back to you and have you introduce yourself, what you're doing, and how you got here. Sorry about that.
Is that marginalization?
Sorry, Charles. How can? You're my person. Sorry. Go on.
Okay. Yeah. Good day, good morning, everyone. For my background, I think I've been a little bit of an entrepreneur from a very young age. And coincidentally, some of the early things I remember doing was selling diskettes filled with games. If you remember when we had diskettes and you had things like Prince of Persia on them. So I will basically transfer those games to people and then get some kind of barter or money, depending on what it was. And I happened to grow up in Enugu in the southeastern part of Nigeria, and my secondary school was in Port Harcourt. And what was incidental is that in my school, a lot of people were engineers, their parents were engineers because of the energy industry in Rivers State at the time. So I had quite a lot of kids in my class who were engineers. And then my own background was where my father was in the academia. And so putting that together, I thought, well, it was obvious that I needed to get an education. But then I had a lot of people talking about a lot of stuff, and we had ourselves learning quite a lot of things with engineering background. And most of us ended up studying things around tech. And moving on to my university years, I went to the UNN, and getting in there, I became very disillusioned. Having been more of an A student prior to the university, gaining admission, a few weeks later, it was strikes. So there I was in school and not in school. You know, you're in school, you're supposed to be in the university, but you're sitting at home. And I got working. I started gathering quite a lot of tech experience early on. Some of you may remember an organization called Bodex Telecom. Bodex Telecom brought the first set of mobile phones pre-GSM to southeastern and south part of Nigeria. So I happened to be one of the young people who started working there for free at the time when they were setting up. First of all, it got me to travel and visit a lot of places. And then, I started driving very early. So one of the first jobs I did was taking some of the expatriates around, carrying their toolboxes, enabling them to go to the villages, map out the locations for the cell sites, and set up. And moving on from there, I was able to get very, very much interested in my future career, but very, very uninterested in my education. Because when I got back to school, I couldn't relate with my education at the University of Nigeria. The lecturers were trying to give us knowledge that was at least 10, 20 years old. And I couldn't connect with it. I was just I just barely graduated from school, basically because of because of the need to, and my family background, where not being a graduate would have been looked or frowned upon. But what I can tell you is that those early experiences, that ability to gain work experience while in school, made it easy for me to make certain choices afterwards. So upon graduation, the first interview I attended, I got a job, but I wasn't happy because I never really loved the workplace. I wanted to fix stuff while the organization where I was working, even though in IT, bought stuff. So there was really a little much that you can do with when you are given projects that required you to just buy technology. And that led me to leaving and then starting my own business, which is why when in 2016, we found the opportunity to work with the university to set up an incubator, we actually embraced it because that was the possibility of giving back young people who were in the same environment like I was a couple of years back, to explore their potentials in many different ways. And one of the things we achieved with that was that I realized that in the university there, the list of projects, this is final year projects for engineering students that I had maybe some 15 or more years earlier, was the same that they were getting sometime in 2016, which was very, very strange. But today I can tell you that has changed because the lecturers or the professors started realizing that they needed to enable these students to learn and use things that would make them relevant in the marketplace. So they started exploring technologies, and the faculty began to allow them to use this and deploy that in their as part of their academic program, but then making it relevant for what they could do post-graduation. So for me, it's been a journey of necessity, and it's been a journey that has happened by circumstances like having the strikes, but it's also been very rewarding, and that is what we still do today, trying to see how we can play a role in developing younger talent and also supporting innovation, which I believe anyway lives within the academia. So, and that's where I found my own calling, even though not by plan. So that's me, and I wish that the young people take the opportunities that they see and even the disappointments in their stride to be able to make what they can out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charles. And again, apologies for not coming back to you early enough to do your introduction. And thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm going to come back to you with a question, but I want to go on to Folarin Shaw. So Folarin Shaw, if you can put on your mic and your video. Your story was very fascinating because you talked about, your background and, the fact that you lost a parent, you had one other parent who was really struggling to feed the family. And yet you were still able to sort of figure out your way, having tried a number of things and muddle through. So I don't know if you can speak to people who, let me take 2 steps back. Access to opportunities is still a problem in Nigeria because of our poverty levels. And so there are kids who have similar backgrounds and who still don't have that opportunity or space to sort of muddle through and figure out what part in this tech, emerging tech industry that they want to be a part of. So what would you say to those people? How can they play a part in the digital economy? What would you tell young kids who are still trying to figure out a way to get where you are today and have similar backgrounds, that this is the pathway to do so? Folarin Shaw.
Thank you very much. Even though I've done tech all my life, practically, but tech is not the first thing that comes to my mind. I have a framework I use. I work with a lot of startups. I work with a lot of incubators and accelerators. And one of the first things I like to say is, given my background, is there are 3 levels I look at. The mindset, that's the framework I use. The mindset, the handset. Handset has to do with what you can do or what you know, the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities you have. That's what I call the handset. And then you have what you call the land set. Land set. Land tells you the opportunities that you have in the environment. More often than not, a lot of people will want to jump to the land set. They want to jump to the land set with the wrong mindset. So for me, I believe a lot in first principle. When going to school, I paid a lot of attention to first principles, even in differentiation and all that. Is if the mind is wrong, we're going to have a problem, no matter what opportunities we have thrown at us. And that is what is happening a lot in Nigeria today. Oh, there's this money for this, there's this money for that, there's this whatever to be done here. People will go back and forth and still not get the best out of it. We need to go to the foundation, which is the mindset. Technology at most has like 1 or 2 things it can do. One is to create something, and the other one is to act as a platform. So technology in itself can be a product or can be a platform. Now, if you do not even have what you are solving, which problems you are solving, if you do not have something that matters to you, if it's all about making the money that gets you into tech, more often than not, you would not succeed as much. If you succeed at all. 80% of the people will not even succeed because you are going to keep chasing stuff. But if you have a problem, I love what my brother Hansen said. He noticed that there was a problem. Same with Nkem Delim, I hope you don't mind my calling you that. There was a problem. The first and foremost noticed, Hansen noticed everybody was rushing to Lagos. And he saw that, hey, I could solve this problem. So what I would tell people who are in my situation, because that was what helped me as a person, is what problem are you even trying to solve? Technology will give you scale when you start to solve the problem. Technology would help you solve it faster, more efficiently, cost effectively. Technology would help you deal with it. Maybe will you be able to deal with drudgery? Those are the things technology would help you to do. But guess what? If there's still no problem you are solving, technology in itself is useless. Most of us today, even the people we call poor, have more technology than we had in the 70s, in the 80s, and even in the 90s. In the 80s, professors did not have access to they didn't have access to computers that had up to up to 32 megabits RAM or had this space. And yet they were going on with advanced technology. The truth right now is that even people in the village have in the palms of their hands computers that have more power than we had in the 90s. And yet they don't even know what to do with it. Yet they are looking for jobs. Yet they are asking for access. My point is we need to first go to the brass tack. What issues do people, we need to teach people how to locate problems. We need to teach people how to understand value chain. My brother said something, Mr. Michael said something about you have 20 hotels on a spot, in a single line. The problem is with those hotels, instead of just thinking about building hotels, can I say we have 5 hotels and I want to take care of just logistics for all these hotels? You are solving a problem. So I think personally, tech is great. I like to talk about tech, but tech is like the last bastion for me. I think we need to, as a nation, mindset is the thing we need to deal with. Human capacity. When the mind thinks wrongly, if you give a man the ability to code and you don't teach him the right thing, he will use the code to do Yahoo.
Yeah.
So the issue is not access alone. Please don't get me wrong that people do not have access. But even where you are that you do not have access, if the mind seeks to solve problems, if the mind understands value chain and how they are connected, if the mind believes it can do anything it puts its mind to, access is now the next thing. Because when you come to me, you come with a problem you are trying to solve. Then I can say, oh, the way you are trying to solve the problem is a little bit different. You can do it better with tech and all that. A lot of people today have access to YouTube. They would not use it. If they go use it, what are they doing? They are consuming content that is not going to add any value to them. And at the end of the day, they will go back and say, we don't have a job and all that. The truth is that you can learn anything today on YouTube. Like I think it was Nkem that said that. You can learn anything on YouTube, no matter how much of an expert you are. Right from 1+1 to astronomy and astrophysics, you can learn today. But guess what? If the mind is in the wrong place, which is what I think we have, we are going to do the wrong thing. Secondly, people go to university today to go earn a degree. But that's not what university is about. It used to be called the ivory tower. Why? People lock themselves in there to solve fundamental problems. Today, I don't know who was saying it. I don't know if it was Charles that was saying it. I went to Ife and it was meant to be one of the best in terms of engineering and all that. But towards the end, I was a bit disillusioned. I was on Dean's list, you first class or the first 10 in class, and all that. But the truth is I got to a stage and all I was thinking of was I came into this school with a lot of hopes of building stuff, inventing things and all that. But I was living with a first class or 2-1. And guess what? What have I created? The same thing. A lot of people go to school today with the wrong mindset. So forgive me if I deviate a bit. I'm not talking so much about tech, but I think there's a level that if we don't deal with, we can provide all the techs in the world. And thanks to someone, and thanks to Chief Chris, well, that's what we call him in the industry, for raising a daughter like Nkem. But guess what? What he did was giving direction. A lot of kids out there don't have the direction. All they think of is, I want to hammer. If we don't deal with the hammering mindset, if we don't deal with the mindset that wants to just make money, we are not solving the real problem. We will provide tools for people to become worse versions of themselves. So yes, I believe in tech, but forgive me if I'm not talking a lot about tech this morning. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's a tool. And you only use tool to solve problems. If you don't have the problem to solve, the tool can become a dangerous weapon. Thank you. I hope I haven't said anything stupid.
No, thank you so much for Lawrence Shaw. Very well said. And I like the way that you tied everybody else's personal story in terms of in framing your answers and talking about, the mindset shift that needs to occur. And coming to you, Hanson, if I can get you to turn on your camera, because, I think this framing that Lawrence Shaw has given us around mindset, handset, and landset being the framework for which people can use tech as an enabler to solve problems. You obviously saw a problem in Uyo, and then you tried to solve it. You noticed the gap and you tried to fill it. Can you give us practical example how, now that you have grandfathered other people through this tech hub that you have built in Uyo, are impacting the local economy? Can you tell us what the people who are working in your hub are doing and how that is enabling or solving other problems within that, ecosystem that you cover, that region that you cover? Hanson, please.
Thank you very much, Ife, of all of us. All right. So just like everyone other person here laughing.
You're a case, Hanson, honestly.
Just as we have already agreed and said that we have to identify a problem and now look for a solution. So as a young person, you have to know what your purpose is in life, but how are you going to get there? It's always what we need other people to figure out with us. So here, paramount is that we are always looking for local challenges that we can provide solutions to. And we always stress that not all problems must be solved. If in trying to solve a problem, I will fail, I will die, please let us let that problem be a problem until it's the right time for us to solve it. If you don't have the right resources, the right tool, the right support to solve it now, and there's nothing you can do to really move from point 0 to point 1 or point 0 to point A, you may not need to even start now. But even when you have everything you can think of, if you don't look for people that are already solving that problem to make them your mentor, even if it's not a problem per se, you want to become something, maybe a professional, you have to look for people that are already professional, someone that you would want to be like. So if it took me 10 years to be who I am today, nobody following me should also put in 10 years to get here. They should be able to put in 2 years, 3 years to get here. Why am I there? So if I allow you spend 10 years, I think I have failed, So the same way I let you achieve what I achieved in 10 years, in 3 years, we should also be able to let another person achieve in 2 years. And by that, we are solving problems and even bringing more people into the ecosystem so that we can keep on helping ourselves to facilitate our growth. And the aim is for us to achieve success all together. So the problems we solve are problems that are local to us. We don't need to, when we acquire tech skills, I always tell people, forget about rocket sciences, forget about the problems in the US and the UK. If your solution, if you cannot eat your own dog's food, and then I don't think you will be able to solve the problem the way it should be solved. For example, when we are targeting people, you don't need to target all women, all students, but I prefer we target a woman, a pregnant woman in the kitchen. If you solve that problem well for a pregnant woman in the kitchen, she is the one to tell other women and other people how this is helping her in the kitchen in her state. And from there, you will save a whole lot of money in marketing other women that are not even in the kitchen. So identifying what problem you want to solve, getting the right tool, the right resources that will enable you to solve this problem. I have been careful not to mention funding because funding without a better idea, structure plan will take you nowhere. But all these things that I'm mentioning, you will still need funding in a way to be able to bring them together to enable you to solve that problem you want to solve. So here in the Niger Delta region, agri is what we have almost everything we need to be able to achieve what we need to achieve without much of stress and challenges. Again, if the problem you want to solve is dependent on so many third parties, for example, you must get a license before you start. For example, you must register with National Union or Road Transport Workers and now wait for 3 years before you can even start. If it is dependent on so many third parties, it may not be what a startup with lean resources should think of. Always reach out to or approach problems, challenges that you need no other person apart from you, internet and laptop to start with support from a tech hub around you.
Thank you, Hanson. But I'm going to push back on my question again. Can you tell us, because you're running an incubator, Can you tell us one tech that has come out of your incubator, and what are they doing? What local problems are they doing? Just give us a case study so that people who are out there will not think these things are unreachable. So let's make it a bit more tangible. Give us one example of one of your incubatees.
Okay, a typical example is Jiggle.
Very quickly, 2 minutes.
Jiggle, Jiggle, Jiggle.ng. So Jiggle is a payment system. It enables local businesses to process payments. What problem are they solving? POS has been sort of a challenge here. So if you are someone like me, I'm very, very cashless. Whenever I want to make payments for when I'm shopping, they will tell me there's no network with POS, or I'll have to pay extra 50 naira or 100 naira for the POS, or I have to now transfer and wait for them to confirm the alert before I can go with what I bought. So that has always, people have been complaining. So we thought of how we are going to solve this. And this came in handy during the COVID-19 lockdown. So we were that's even when we released this particular technology. It has been able to help local businesses here to process payments with smiles. And beyond the payment, it also helped them manage multiple sources of transaction. And the accountants can now generate their voucher or whatever, and they have clean account statements. That has been able to solve problems for people locally here. Apart from that, we also have a cluster that we are supporting, and they are interested in agriculture as a business. So we provide them with data virtual platforms where they interact, and we bring resources to help them do their farming backed up with data, and this has been successful over time.
Thank you very much, Hanson. Thank you. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I'm going to come to you now, Charles. Charles, you talked about your story. Can we get your video up? You talked about your story being an entrepreneur. I loved the fact that you were selling diskettes so early in life. I think you and Nkem, sort of share a very similar pathway in terms of how you came to be. And that your entrepreneurship journey got you into a space where you decided that you could be, a maker of things. So you're sort of like a maker space expert, and you're very hands-on. So please talk to our brothers and our sisters in Aba, at Tinkan Corner, at the Computer Village in Lagos, that are doing things with their hands, right? How do we get them to get from this very basic way of doing business and getting them to a stage where they can also use digital tools to promote their businesses online, so that they are not just remaining, at that very banal stage of trying to solve this sort of problems that we're talking about. So please tell us how we can get people from Tinker's Corner, Aba, Kano Market, Kano Phone Market, the Lagos Computer Village, to get from where that basic hands-on skills making thing to a digital economy driven product. Charles.
Okay, thank you very much. I will I may make a few controversial statements, but I think it will be food for thought for all the stakeholders you mentioned. I happen to come from Onitsha, which hosts presumably the largest market in Africa or West Africa, depending on who you're listening to. That is the first issue, because I don't know how you define markets in 2021. I dare say that the Onitsha market is growing in space, but shrinking in revenue. And markets are no longer defined by physical spaces. I don't know who is measuring. I've looked for data in this space locally and across. I know that it's still considered either number one or number two largest physical market. But in terms of the actual products or revenue that they are generating, I think the markets are probably growing, the traders are probably growing poorer. The problem is that they are not measuring. This is because the competition has grown beyond physical. I can't remember, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I will typically visit home and find reason, something will take me close to the market. In the past 15 years or more, I've been trying to look for my colleagues and peers who visit. In fact, people that live in Onitsha, very few of them go to the markets anymore. Some of them are buying from Jumia, Konga. So when you put up your wares in the shops, nobody can find them. Nobody knows that you exist. You only sell to people that have the time and energy and patience to come to you. So it's not a matter of how they can grow. It's a matter of how they can survive. At this point, people that haven't leveraged technology need to survive to continue to do business. So as a matter of necessity, those in Thinkers Corner, Computer Village, and Co. will need to deliberately embrace technology in their businesses, not just in the way that they sell, but even in the way that they present their goods, in the way they manage their operations. The traders, the typical traders who mostly happen to come from a southeastern part of the country, have the scheme, the Ewiba Boy, which is the apprenticeship method. That apprenticeship method is a very unique method, but is also a method that needs to be revolutionized by technology. Because today you have that person that you trust that keeps stock, that takes stock. You have the other salesperson that manages your warehouse and locks it. You know, that limits growth in the way it is structured. Because what happens when the person is sick? What happens when the turnover becomes high, like I know it already is? Because you rarely find people that are willing to spend 7 years serving you. What happens then? And how can you scale across countries when we know how today bigger can also be better, especially for those of them that break through the ceilings of remaining in 1 or 2 or 3 locations? So to your point, the guys in Thinkers Corner, the guys in Computer Village and Co. will need to become the investors in tech, not just the users of tech. Every day we wake up, recently, I mean, the last 3 months, it's even been more pronounced. We wake up to hear this company has raised this amount of money. $100,000, by the way, that Y Combinator would give a typical startup is just about 30-something million, let's say 40-something million naira today. It can do I mean, for some people, it's less than 1 container, as we typically put it. But when you ask for that kind of investment in tech that can give you 5x, 10x or more in a few years, our traditional traders shy away from it. So my suggestion is, one, this group of people who have a lot of capital at their disposal as individuals and as union or market associations will need to organize themselves or use their existing organizations to become investors. Seed investors, angel investors, they need to make that transition as a matter of survival. That's one. Two, they need to begin to embrace technology in their day-to-day operations and the way that they are organized. For one of the supporters organizers of this program is ANSITA, the ICT agency for Anambra State. I don't know if they are here or they are listening, but I must say, how can you measure the output from the markets? Do we even know how many people are buying what out of this, out of the different markets in your environment? It becomes very important that the core user of technology moves from just being the banks who provide only one aspect of service to commerce and trade, to also the people that are the actual traders, who are the businessmen. So these are, for me, these are the key areas. And then for that to happen, we may also, I want to touch on e-commerce. I think one of the key reasons why e-commerce hasn't succeeded so much as it should, as we have predicted it to in Africa or Nigeria specifically, is the lack of adequate digital literacy. So if you want people to buy online, if you want people to use online resources, then they need to have the basic skills. There are quite a lot of organizations playing in that space, but I don't think it is enough. The government needs to step up their game to ensure that businesses thrive. But it's a handshake. It's a handshake because whereas the academia need to do their bit, the businesses may be able to support the government or push the government or lobby the government to do that, because they must understand that their existence is mutually beneficial. And taxes alone is not what government should focus on, one form of tax or the other, but a way for there to be synergy in growth, enabling the businesses and for the businesses to also get the people and the right environment that will make business to thrive. So it is I want to end this with saying it is a matter of survival, not business growth. The markets as we know it today, I would struggle to see how they will exist in this manner or form in the next 10 years. So they need to do something and do something very quickly. Yes, because COVID has fast-tracked what we all knew was coming. If today you see people moving offices, stop shutting down offices because people can work from home, where do we have our internet, infrastructure, broadband, and a whole host of other things that will support this to happen? Government has to play a role in that. And then the businesses need to understand that they need this stuff. Our markets being designed today with proper security infrastructure like CCTV, intelligent video surveillance. We all watch those things. We still see market fires, destroying products with nobody knowing or identifying the sources. So there's just a whole lot of stuff that needs to be deliberately looked into. And it's not a government affair. It is not the traders' affair or the businessmen affair. It is not just for the academia. It is a synergy. I think some people refer to it as triple helix or whatever type of synergies that you may want, but that needs to come mainstream and it has to be driven by all parties together. Thank you.
Wow, Charles, you've given us a lot to think about. I mean, there are lots of bombshells that he threw out there. One of them is that markets, are growing in space, but shrinking in revenues. The traders and trading as we know it are getting poorer. And I think we can see that because one of the things I've noticed, especially post-COVID, is seeing a lot of traders around Abuja leaving their actual stores and selling on the street corners. It used to be a Lagos problem, but now I think it's been taken nationwide. And people asking you to do transfers to them on the streets as you're driving if you don't have cash on you. So you're right, the physical space that we know as markets is completely changing. And then you talk about how now it's not a matter of growth, but how to survive. And you wondered whether, markets as we know it, the traditional market systems as we know it will continue to exist 10 years from now. Lots of food for thought. I'm going to come back to you because I have another question for you, but let me go to Nkem. And this is my last round of questions before we open it up to the audience. And I'll ask all the speakers to please spend about 2 minutes. Let's keep it short so that we have enough questions coming in from our participants, and you can sort of delve into their questions in more detail. So Nkem, please, if I can have you turn up your video. You've listened to Charles and you've listened to Hansen and Folarin Shaw as well. And during your introduction, you talked about how you're onboarding, part of your work is onboarding industries and businesses with digital skills. Now, with the sort of dire situation that Charles has posted or talked about, what are the things that the tech ecosystem, as we know it, should be doing to onboard people into this digital skills faster? What can we be doing? Because it's something you're already doing, but I feel like we need to accelerate it based on the data that all of the other speakers are talking about. For instance, Charles talked about, getting buyers, lack of adequate digital literacy, it's a problem, especially for buyers, but even for sellers. So what should we be doing with all those brick and mortar industries and getting them onboarded very, very quickly? If I can get your thoughts in about 2 minutes, that would be great. Nkem?
Okay, thanks. I think that digital skills development programs are really key. And a lot of that is already done by sort of big tech like Google and Facebook. And, they basically equip, market women, vulcanizers, traders, with the skills to at least know how to sell their goods online and how to sort of navigate that landscape. I think that the industry can only support that, because if it's not your sort of core, it will take you away from what you're doing. However, I think that just looking at what are the solutions that we can provide in terms of, maybe technology solutions, out of the box solutions for smaller businesses, to guide them on that tech journey. How can we, maybe with funds support programs, and what else can we do? I think also one key thing is not to forget that if you have off-takers that are digitally savvy and know what they want, they're going to require services. And if we don't have human capital that can deliver these services, then we're going to have a problem again, right? So it's chicken or egg. And I think that we as an industry can do one thing, right? Which is invest in building a sustainable tech talent pipeline, and by supporting organizations that are doing just that, right? And as well as ensuring that we have spaces for internships, that we're giving learning opportunities, that we create structured graduate trainee programs within our organizations and things like that, to help sort of churn out more of that technology talent, and that we support financially wherever we can to ensure that there are more and more people being actually trained, and that pipeline is actually actively growing. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nkem. Thank you for that. For Lauren Shaw, coming to you now, I think some of the other speakers, especially Charles, and I think Nkem and Hansen might have hinted around this earlier on in their answers. But I want you to sort of expound on the role that you see governments and primary and tertiary institutions, not university now, because I think by the time people get to university, sometimes their paths are already set, especially with the level of poverty and the shrinking lack of opportunities. But what do you think institutions, government should be doing at this stage, especially at the lower stages of child development, to make sure that our youth, our young ones, are really sort of onboarding with tech skills faster to catch up with that digital economy that Nkem tells us that we're going to be competing with the rest of the world? Can you just sort of give us a quick idea? Because there are a few government institutions on this panel, on this forum, and I just want us to be able to have some exchanges around that.
Thank you very much. Normally, I don't advise government anymore, because I think for every government failure, an opportunity for the private citizen to do a lot more. Of course, there's only so much you can do without government. I'm not disputing, but I'm saying instead of hitting my head against the wall all the time, just take advantage or get a few people to try to do something in that area. However, having said that, I think number one, we need to start digital literacy from much lower in the cadre, from primary school. And I'm not just talking about put it in the curriculum, but looking for a way to close the gap between the gown and the town. For example, I would expect government to say for every primary school, they would have clubs where you have industry practitioners come to the school. They leverage on industry practitioners coming to the school. If you know what it is for a 5 or a 6 year old person to see an Nkem in her class, a girl of 6 year old, and say, hey, I am a tech person, I'm a techpreneur, I have built this and built that. Do you know you have created the future of Nigeria in the next 30 years? It's in 30 years, the girl will tell you, I met a lady when I was 6 years old and she shaped my future. We need to close that gap between the gown and the town, beyond just what is in the curriculum, but bringing people who would create ideas and the dream in children. That's in primary school. And we need to stop what we put in our curriculum and not things that my children, for example, sorry, I'm trying to manage my time. My children, for example, will come from school and they say they taught them how to use Word and Excel. Great, but don't spend a whole term teaching them Word and Excel. Word and Excel, you can point them in the right direction, and then these are things they can learn on their own. Go into things that they can create things with. Children can dream. We need to harness the dream. Rather than harnessing dreams, we kill the dreams by making everything rote. We need, in a nutshell, sorry, I'm rambling. In a nutshell, our government needs to begin to build on the ability of children to dream, rather than on straitjacketing them into rote method of doing things. I don't have time, but I don't want to just go on and on, but I think for anything I can bring out is government should work on people's creativity and ability to dream rather than just the ability to do, because the human beings are the ones that will create those things. What we are doing right now in our schools is we are teaching them how to do what was learned 20, 30, 40 years ago, what was built 20, 30, 40 years ago, to live in a century that is no longer using those things. But if you help a child to learn the tools and then help them to create and to dream, they will create the future they would live in. Thank you.
Wow, another set of bombshells. I mean, we're getting quite a lot from our panelists today. I don't know if I have 3 pages of notes already filled up, just learning myself from this very distinguished panel. So I'm going to come to Hanson and ask you the same question I asked for Lauren Shaw around, what should we be doing to close the gap? But this time from the ecosystem level, what are the things that hubs should be doing at the very basic level, not trying to help people who have money or who have graduated from universities to close this gap? Because Nkem did say to us that we're going global now. We're going to have a global skills competition where Africa and countries like Nigeria will be left behind. What is the role of hubs to make sure that we're closing that gap from the primary and secondary school level? Folarin Shaw has told us what government should be doing. He says government should work on the ability to help children to think and dream rather than to do. But at the hubs level, what should we be doing? Hanson?
Thank you very much. So at the hub level, joining hands or heads with Folarin Shaw, we should be advocating to governments. So that advocacy, government in most cases don't even know what they want to do or how they want to do it. So we should be there because we are the ones at the receiving end. We know where it's pinching us. So we should be able to, through our policy arms, reach or educate government and facilitate making these policies available so that our people in the hub, the entrepreneurs, the startup talents that want to develop faster at a pace compared to what's happening in the Western region, will be able to have a better platform to achieve their dreams locally here from Nigeria. So Hub should continue to provide a platform for people generally to start up faster. They should not forget that they are not for money first, but they are like a social enterprise. But in the long run, that money will surely come as long as IFI signs the check. We can't hear you. You're mute.
I think it was a bad idea to have you on this panel, honestly, because you're making me laugh too much. But thank you so much to all our panelists. I'm going to come to Charles for my last question to him. Charles, you gave us also a lot to think about, and you've heard all our other speakers talk about what we need to be doing, where we need to be going to sort of close this looming threat that we see. And I just wondered what your closing thoughts are around getting like the brick and mortar businesses. You've talked about what the threats are, but what are these practical things that we should be doing to help entrepreneurs, and ideators, to actually begin to scale up using this sort of digital ecosystem that we're already talking about using as an enabler to drive commerce and to drive entrepreneurship. Charles.
Thank you very much. I think some of the more practical steps, first will be to have a forum like this where they are ably represented. When I started engaging with the university about 5 years ago on the innovation journey, one thing that struck me is that there seems to be parallel lines when conversations around innovation and economy are happening. When you want to discuss tech, there's also a parallel line typically between the corporates, which I happen to have participated in, and what you call the startup. So you tend to have a lot of parallel lines that need to be totally distorted we need to bring people together. On panels like this, maybe it would have been nice to have some of the market leaders to be on the panel as well and share their own side of the story. That way, they can understand what we may see from our individual perspectives, and we can also understand where they sit. Government has taken up a lot of effort in this area, both at the national and the state levels in the last couple of years. But I dare say that the academia and the traditional businesses and the SMEs are still missing on the table when conversations are had. The second thing I want to talk about is policy. From a policy perspective, there are two areas. One is that government makes policies, but the people that policies affect need to organize themselves better. Today, it seems like most of those organizations are a bit myopic. Sorry, I said I'll be making some very controversial statements. So if you go to most of the market associations, they kind of guide how you join the association, how you sell in their open markets, how they protect their wares, how they secure their goods, how they deal with omonile or traditional disturbances, but they don't seem to know how to engage at the policy level to ensure that the policies are favorable, to lobby for certain things to happen. I don't think their traditional organizations are set up for that, and that needs to change. On the government side, however, government needs to understand that they cannot superintend over a dying sectors of the economy. Our education system from the nursery, I'm a product of Nigerian public school system. From my primary education all the way to my first degree are all public Nigerian public schools, from federal school to federal university. And they were at least above a certain level. I can't send my children to any of those schools today. The government cannot superintend over dying sectors. You cannot achieve what we want to achieve purely by supporting private schools or allowing private schools to thrive. There needs to be a mix. That mix needs to ensure that we have the right canon for that. I think that was one of the, I wouldn't mention names, one of the tech players in Nigeria who said every time he hears about opportunity in Nigeria and the opportunity with talent and the abundance of talent, that he thinks that is crap, because most of the talent are not actually able to deliver any real output because of the way they've been produced. So forget the numbers. If you run through 100 people, sometimes you find one, sometimes none that can actually compete or deliver real quality. That needs to change. And a lot of that requires leadership at all levels. So I would leave it there, and I would say on all sides again, policy, reorganization or restructuring of the existing organizations for businesses. I mean, if you even come to the professional side of things, I belong to a litany of organizations that I don't know what exactly their real the real effectiveness of what they're supposed to be delivering. Every year we subscribe to things like Industrial Training Fund, NSITF, Computer Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON. There are just a whole lot of them organized around protecting dying systems, you know, when they should be restructuring to support the future world that has come upon us. So I'm not just talking about the market traders and market associations. I'm talking about the professional associations, the town unions, just everything that we participate in has been changed, not will be changed. If we were in doubt, COVID has brought us out of the doubts that we've been existing in. So for that, I would leave it there. If you belong to an organization, if you belong to a town union, if you belong to a professional organization, perhaps you can lend your voice to the conversation that we are having today. If you participate in government, the mindset needs to change from taxation, enforcement, to participation, co-creation, and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Charles. Thank you very much. One last round of questions in a sentence or two. I already put it on the WhatsApp chat to all our panelists. And as the spirit leads, please decide who wants to go first. My inclination is to call Nkem Dilim first, but maybe, she might want to cede the floor to somebody else. March is generally known as Women's Month. March 8 is International Women's Day, but the whole month of March is known as Women's Month. Traditionally, we know that there's a lot of disparity when we talk about women in tech, women in the innovation ecosystem. So I want all of you to just think, and the theme for this month is choose to challenge. When it comes to women, opportunities, and tech, what are you choosing to challenge? Anybody who wants to go first, please go first.
I'll go first.
Go.
So I choose to challenge the status quo of a male-dominated and tech and digital ecosystem. And I celebrate all the amazing women who are making waves, sitting at the table and building their empires despite all of the barriers that they face.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Nkem. All right, any of our other panelists?
Okay, for me, I hope I'm not controversial. I salute women. I keep saying my mom showed me what it means to be a man. So I see things a lot from the female perspective. And I think as a nation, the reason why we're where we are today is because we discountenance women and the fact that we do not do enough to ensure that women folk, contribute as much as they possibly can to our growth. When I took over as the CEO of my organization, one of the first rules I made is for the next 2 years, I would only be recruiting ladies. Not because I believe in quotaship and all that, but I just feel that too much testosterone in a place sometimes leads to lack of creativity. A lot of egos will be going in and out.
So what are you choosing to challenge? What are you challenging?
Challenge for me is change the way you view women on the women folk. As far as I'm concerned, the woman folk is the powerhouse of any environment. So optimize the powerhouse.
Okay. Change the way you view women because women are the powerhouse of the home and optimize the user.
No, not the home. Any environment, not just the home. Any environment.
Okay.
Yes, optimize the powerhouse.
Okay, please put that on the WhatsApp chat because we're going to do like a digital campaign using your words, using it for social media at the end of this forum. Okay, coming to you, Hansen, and then Charles. What are you choosing to challenge?
So I'm choosing to challenge women by giving them a platform that they can also thrive, irrespective of what the challenges may be. For example, my daughter accused me that I am always very busy when she wants to play with me. So I bought her this robotic kit, and it took her like 4 days with the help of 2 other people to come up with this robot, and since then she has no time for me again. We are now all busy. That was me choosing to challenge.
Okay, well said. Thank you, Hansen. Please put your choose to challenge on the WhatsApp chat. Charles, what are you choosing to challenge? Women's Month.
Well, I choose to challenge the discrimination against women in family succession and business inheritance, because I think it is a major loss to the typical businessman which is mostly male dominated today, when they lose the opportunity to groom their daughters or their wives to be able to succeed them should that be a family business. So it's an opportunity for them to rethink. I have 3 daughters, so I hope that they are groomed if they would want to participate, but they should have equal opportunity just like a male child would. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you to all our amazing panelists. Wow, this has been an incredible session, and I hope everybody, you know, has learned as much as I have learned from this forum today. Now we're going to open it up to questions, and hoping that people can come up with questions that our panelists. We have 30 minutes more, 20 minutes more to answer questions. So if you have a questions, let me just see your hands raised up, and then we'll give you the floor. Questions, please. If you want to raise your hands, there's a button where you can raise your hand. So just unmute yourself.
Ify?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to explain. You know, I wrote something on what I choose to challenge for women. You know, just
yes,
a brief
go ahead.
one.
Go ahead.
Okay, I come from a background that, you know, we studied engineering many years ago, and there's a trend I noticed in the engineering space where, you know, women are as bright as, in fact, in our own set, the women were brighter than the men because more of them made first classes and 2-1s back then.
Always.
That was many years ago.
Always.
But the issue is that when we are post-school, what happens? The women that were the hotheads in engineering end up in bank, end up in consulting firms, end up in you know, in all kinds of professions that have nothing to do with what they were studying. So, you know, the problem is they are studying these things, but are they practicing? So that is the challenge that I see. Maybe you have a class of 8 ladies that passed out university 20 years ago. Today, you only find 1 or 2 of them that are practicing engineering. So that is a challenge. So that is also dovetailing back to what Nkemdili was saying, that there are few women out there, you know, in the tech space. Because, you know, the problem is the fathers will tell the girls, don't go and be a civil engineer, you'll be carrying blocks on the site. Or the girls, don't go and be a mechanical engineer, you'll be screwing and carrying tools up and down and carrying engine up and down. I don't want that for my daughter. So that mindset is already in them that they can't do it. So I think the challenge is we need to start telling our girls, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Thank you. And CFA, is CFA on the call? Please, what are you choosing to challenge CFA? Chukwuemeka Fred Agbata. I see him on the call, or did he step out?
Yeah. I'm on the call.
Okay, what are you choosing to challenge?
Well, I'm choosing to challenge the fact that we need more diversity in the tech space. So I go out of my way to find, even though like Nkem said, there are few, but I still find the ones that I get to feature and do promotions or, you know, interviews on. That's why on Tech Build Africa, we have a section what we called Women Tech, where we focus mainly on women who are doing stuff in the tech industry. And I think that, you know, the more women we have in the industry, the better for it, the better for diversity, the better for ideas, the better for the creativity. So yeah, that's what I'm choosing to challenge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CFA. So we're now going to open it up to questions. Anybody has a question, just let us know. And yes, we have Emmanuel Onoha. Please, can we unmute him? He has a question.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the moderators and the speakers and the opportunity. My question is, I just wanted to, just ask if everyone in tech is taking into consideration in terms of where they are based, so that as it is now, most of our technology companies are based in Lagos. You know, how that is going to impact different states or various other cities in the country if all our new startups are based in Lagos. And even the young ones who are growing up and trying to get internship, but have no one in Lagos where they can do 3 months or 4 months internship. How is that, or how is the business owners or new startup taking this aspect of the whole thing into consideration?
Thank you, Emmanuel. You can put your hand down. Any of our panelists wants to take that question? He's saying, you know, we still have a concentration of the tech ecosystem in Lagos. And if we're talking about building out, closing the gap, you know, how are we going to do that if everybody's still focused on Lagos rather than decentralizing to other parts of the country?
I have something to say here.
Go ahead, Charles, and then we'll come to you.
My quick contribution to that. I know a lot of people would want to simply give up on government, but government needs to create an enabling environment. That will attract people to stay. That would attract tech companies to build. And those policies are very, very easy to do because precedences have been set in even the Lagos that we refer to. There was deliberate action to kickstart certain industries that are currently thriving in Lagos. And there was deliberate action to support those industries to grow and succeed. So I'll leave it there. I know there are so many other players, but government has a big role to play in providing the right environment and destination marketing. You need to welcome people deliberately and not chase them away. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Okay.
Yeah. So I agree with Charles, but I also want to sort of play devil's advocate a little bit, right? When you look at the States, tech is in Silicon Valley, right? You're not going to go to Oklahoma if you want a technology job. And I think we need to be okay with the fact that there are going to be tech clusters. And that this actually also gives a whole new opportunity for, you know, for business owners and new businesses, right? There's talent that is all across the nation, right? And I think a lot of, like, I have people who are in Abuja and working for me at the moment. Before the pandemic, this wouldn't really have ever sort of crossed my mind in that particular way, right? But now it's like, I don't care where you are. You can be anywhere as long as you're doing your job, right? So I think that to address the question about the internships, I think there are a lot of virtual internships now that are available. So I would encourage young people to actually go and look for those. In terms of sort of, you know, the cluster of, you know, startups being in Lagos, the money is in Lagos for tech, right? And we have to be really, really realistic with if you're doing, and the accelerators are there, right? The big ones anyway, the hubs, the big hubs are there. I'm not saying there are no hubs in the East. There are a lot of hubs in the East, but a lot of them are very small, right? And they don't create that enabling environment. They don't have that where you have access to people with funding, investors, mentors, and things like that, right? So I think at this point, we need to really look at, we want to enable our technology ecosystem to grow and to accelerate that growth rate, right? Which means that we have to be realistic with what is going to happen. More and more tech startups will come to Lagos and start in Lagos, right? They may later on decide, okay, now we've raised, we're okay, we can now go and put our offices somewhere else, right? Depending on what it is that they're doing. And what it is, where their talent is, right? You can't say, oh, businesses should come and open, you know, if I say, okay, I'm going to my village to open, you know, a branch of FutureSoft, who's going to work there? If I tell my Lagos team that they should come with me to Delta State and come and stay in Ogwashuku, even if I have housing for them, how many of them are going to do that? They'll be like, okay, boss, thanks, but we're going to stay in Lagos, right? So I think we need to be realistic with what talent wants, where talent is, right? As we, at the same time, do what Charles has said, which is create that enabling environment, right? And we're seeing this happening in states like Edo State, where the governor is very focused on creating jobs and has set up, you know, different types of, you know, commissions and projects that focus on job creation within the technology space, and who has also ensured that he, as the governor, is a big off-taker of the people who are being trained, right? So these are things that need to happen. And like Charles said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? So if there are any policymakers on this forum, go and look at what other states are doing, right? How have they done their broadband and their fiber? Because if you don't have infrastructure, you're just joking with, you want tech people to come. If I don't have internet, I cannot work. That's the reality of it. I don't even need light. I just need internet, right? As long as I have battery on my system, I need internet and that's it. You don't need to give me anything beyond that, but it has to be fast enough for me to make sure that I can upload several gigs of files for my clients, right? And I can do the work that I need to do. If I'm unable to do that, right, which is still the case in most states, right? Even just if you go to, just outside of Lagos a little bit, suddenly you can't use your Instagram anymore. That just shows how poor connectivity is, right? So that we must fix that first. Then we have to fix, okay, what is the incentive for me to come, right? If I'm in Lagos and you want me to come, what is the incentive, right? And if you look at countries like Rwanda, where they are attracting companies from across the continent and global companies into Kigali, because they've created a Kigali Tech Village, they have almost no taxes for tech companies, right? They have all sorts of programs. The government has invested in training talent. So they're like, the talent is here. All you need to do is bring your company. We will give you office space. We will give you this. And they are creating that enabling environment by investing into their people, by investing into the required infrastructure, and by making it so easy for businesses to go there and register, to go there and set up, right? So I think that there are enough playbooks that we can take a page out of. It's really about how much political will is there, right? And how forward-thinking are our states, right? And do they really understand the importance of digital economy readiness, right? When you look at a country like South Korea from 1959, where it was the third poorest country in the world, has gotten to a place where it is in the top 10 in terms of GDP. And in terms of innovation, it is the highest on the list, right? And what they've done is from 1959, where they had 80% of people working in agriculture, they deliberately and very intentionally reduced the workers within the agricultural space to 8%. From 80 to 8, right? Now, when we look at our own economic plans and our development plans, agriculture is high on the list and technology is nowhere to be found. So our priorities from the strategy point are not even there, right? So I think we need to really, really think about, it's not just enabling environment, it is economic and socioeconomic strategy that needs to be tech driven and not just, oh, you want, okay, internet we can put, oh, this we can put. No, it is how are you focused on actually intentionally creating a technology-driven society, right? If you're not focused on that, and Lagos State is, right? When you look at the Lagos State roadmap for their smart cities, for the skills development, across board, you can see that Lagos State is focused on digital economic empowerment and digital economic value creation through technology. So, if your state is not doing that, then at the end of the day, you're never going to attract those big companies. They will come and see and say, okay, you have internet now, but there's no talent. We don't really know who we're even going to sell our services to, right? You must have off-takers. You must have talent. You must have funders. You must have mentors. You must have investors. Right? You must have all of these things in order to be attractive for a big tech company or for a small tech startup, right? If not, it's just not going to happen. So I think we just need to really be a bit more realistic with what it takes and really, start looking at case studies and how we can create roadmaps and frameworks to actually get from where we are to where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkem. Very quickly, Folarinse and Charles, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think I just like to say it's good to have frameworks for things because it helps to explain a lot of things. I talked about ignorance at the beginning. People do what they know. You are what you know. You do what you know. I sent a private message to Charles saying spot on. If the people in government or people in a certain area know one thing, they believe it works for them so far. If you tell a politician today to talk about tech, as far as it's concerned, you don't understand. Going the rudimentary way of snatching black ballot boxes and all that works for me. And that's all he sees. But the day the guy begins to see that, oh, this is not going to last for so long. Enlightened self-interest comes in and he begins to change his ways. He doesn't know. So I would say for us, even here on this table, we need to first begin to do a lot of advocacy, and any opportunity you have with anyone that is involved in policy development or has any power in making input into people's lives, we need to look for ways to consistently, let them have some form of knowledge and do what you call what do you call it? Map how things affect them and their people on a regular basis. Perhaps they would see it either from the professional organization, like you said, to the traders, to people in government. Usually when the stomach competes with the brain, the stomach would always win. Unfortunately, we have weaponized poverty in Nigeria today. So the average guy, even those in government, are always, the person that's meant to think of policy is first thinking, how am I going to pay my house rent? If I'm going to be paid 50,000 naira per month, it's not enough for me to do. So his primary aim is, how do I mess up this system so that something comes out for me? Sorry, I hope I'm not being too controversial. How do I mess up the system instead of making it a straight path for everybody to get something out of it? How do I make it so murky that I make it so opaque that if they don't come through me, nothing gets done? So the guy, as far as he's concerned, let the country, let the youth, let everybody sort themselves out. If I make this place murky, my small space, I make it murky, they come through me, then I give them the price, then I take care of my pocket and my stomach. The guy would never want it to be better. Why? He has found an enclave that works for him. So when we are talking very altruistically and you are looking at how this, if you cannot show that man that is killing himself, not the future is, as far as the general people are concerned, the future will take care of itself. If you cannot show the man how he's destroying himself, or how he's not able to make much more than he's making right now, the likelihood is that he's falling on deaf ears, whatever it is, no matter how laudable the things we are saying, it's not going to work. And that's what's happening in government generally. We need to do beyond showing, just beyond doing, to also helping them to see. Secondly, every failure of government is actually an opportunity. So for everyone who has some level of understanding on the table, there is no hub in the area. Question, value chain. Which part can we put here? What can we do here? I don't actually have to have everything. For example, if I'm able to harness talent, what if I start exporting that talent to Lagos in an organized fashion? Isn't that what Andela started with? Andela was not focusing on Nigeria. All they were saying is, do you know what? How can we harness the talent and give people who would need access to this talent a structured way of accessing this talent in the right way? Isn't that what they did? They chose to fix a particular part of the value chain. So I'm saying that on this table, the problem did not start today. It's not going to end today. The thing is, as my Igbo people will say, when you wake up is daybreak. Isn't that it? So let today be our daybreak. And let us begin to do something so that tomorrow is not destroyed even from today. If we complain on this table today that they do not have a place to do, what can I do within the value chain? Don't take on the entire establishment. There's a place in the value chain that you can do something about. And if you do your bit, Charles does his bit. By the time you know it, the value chain is complete. And government will come to you. I remember when hubs first came to Abuja, it wasn't through government. Now everybody's talking about hubs. When did the system of hub come into Nigeria? Hub system is less than 10 years in this country. Everywhere is talking about hubs right now. Why? So it was a private person that said, I've seen this work somewhere. What can we do in this country to me? And now everybody's talking about it. See, it is first a private space. Every failure of government is an opportunity for you to do something. So instead of just complaining about it, do advocacy, but beyond advocacy, start to do something in your space. And I applaud Hansen, I applaud Charles, and applaud Nkem. For those who are not even, when Hansen said he saw a problem in Uyo, nobody's able to give whatever. Everybody's running to Lagos. But he said, you know what? That failure is my opportunity. And that's what I understood from him. Now he has a reference point in Uyo. No matter what you say today, if Facebook is coming to Uyo to speak, they will call Hansen. If Google is coming to Uyo, they will call Hansen. All of a sudden, Hansen's model now becomes the greatest model in Uyo, and everybody is talking about.
Not just Uyo, the entire South even.
Thank you. Everybody now starts to run to Hansen's place. But guess what? There was a failure that led to him starting that. So bottom line is there are two prongs approach. Let's use the framework. Ignorance is a weapon. We need to deal with it. whether within our system or outside, we continue to challenge the knowledge base so that we can improve. Secondly, advocate as much as you possibly can. Any opportunity you have, advocate. People only do what they know based on enlightened self-interest.
Okay.
Number 3, fill the gap where you can. Don't take on the entire establishment. You've got something, fill the gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hanson, do you want to say something very quickly?
Folorenshaw said everything.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there any other?
Let me just add one, that
Okay.
for how long are we going to be advocating to people who does not even understand what we are saying or what we need? So we should also be interested in who becomes our next chancellor in our local wards. We should also be interested in who becomes our next chancellor in our local wards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hanson. Is there any other question? Because we're almost out of time and we need to think about rounding up. Any other question? If you have a question, please unmute yourself very quickly. Going. Okay. I think I can say, that we have wowed, this panel has completely left the audience speechless, and we have wowed them. They don't know what else to say, because I think there's been a lot that has been said and has given us food for thought. So I'm going to throw out a couple of quotes that I took down as the panel went on. And these were some of the things I sort of took home as people spoke. So, one of the things that Folorenshaw, I think, said is that every failure of government is an opportunity, food for thought. Charles said, that we're the space where markets are growing in space but shrinking in revenue, food for thought. We've had Nkem talk about how to build skills. The skills and knowledge are freely available. Everything is online, food for thought. We have to continue to teach and learn digital skills because the gap is great, food for thought. Governments needs to work on the ability to think and dream rather than to do, food for thought. Hubs should be positioned as platforms for people to grow faster in the digital economy, food for thought. Fill the gap, but don't take on the establishment all at once, food for thought. The whole tech and innovation ecosystem is now a journey of necessity and not just one of growth, food for thought. Think about tech, not just as a career, but as an economic model, food for thought. Lobby for policies. Market associations and traders need to change their business model and lobby for policies that will take them out of the antiquated and outdated mode of doing business, food for thought. Talent is local. Talent is local and has been democratized, food for thought. Ignorance is a big problem and a weapon. It has been weaponized. The way to change that is to work through formal and informal education to get people out of that mindset, food for thought. And when we talk about mindset, we must think about mindsets, handsets, and landsets. There is a gradual process to these things, food for thought. And lastly, let today be our daybreak. Whenever you wake up is your morning, food for thought. So those are the sort of things that I fleshed out as our speakers. All of them, I captured as they were speaking. And I just want to, on behalf of MOREC, thank all our panelists for such an enlightening and electrifying session. I think we need more of this. What has come out is that we need more of this sort of education, but we need to also take it down to the people who matter, beyond government, to market associations, to schools and educators, and to other decision makers that are not bureaucrats. So I'm going to pass this on to the founder of Morek, Michael Orekie, to sort of close us out. But I want to thank our panelists for such an enlightening session. Thank you so much. This has really been quite an electrifying session.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, Ify. Wonderful work as usual. You know, it's like when you see excellence, excellence just keeps improving every day. And it's like you've honed this to an art, how to handle a session. So we'll keep calling you and we hope that you keep answering us. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Anyway, it's been a wonderful session. I'd actually want, there are 2 or 3 questions, 2 or 3 issues that CFA actually wanted to face, and I still want to give him that opportunity. I hope that's all right. And
sure.
Then after that, I'll do a closeout. I got a lot of pointers as well from what the panelists had to say, and I just want to add, 1 or 2 things to that. So I don't know, CFA. CFA. Fred.
Yes, Michael.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know you had 1 or 2 things you definitely needed to ask the panelists. And I said, let me give you that opportunity. I know so much has been said, but your mind works in a certain way. And I need to hear what you have to say and to ask as well.
But Michael, honestly, I mean, if I was going to tell her that she needs a career in media, actually. Because she's so awesome, right? Seriously, like she needs a career in media. She needs to think about it deeply. Maybe run a show, for women or something. But she's good. So Michael, honestly, she's taken up everything. I mean, she's done a good job.
You have something to say. You have something to say. I'm not going to leave you alone. You have something to say.
I mean, so like, okay, ask the panel members, or you mean?
No, ask the panel members and your own thoughts on what has been said today. Because the issue is that what we're trying to bring out is that, fine, this is the background of technology, this is where technology is. But in the future, the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, where is this all going? And what are the opportunities for the Nigerian businessman? What are the threats to him? Because one thing that, has not been really said that I want to bring out, Charles was, skirting around it, but it's a very big problem. Let's take e-commerce, for instance. Once upon a time, e-commerce was all a high-sounding term. Oh, there's Konga, there's Jumia, and everything like that. It was an elitist thing. But COVID and the COVID lockdown made it very unelitist, made it very practical to everybody. I got into Abuja just before the lockdown because I came for my mom's birthday, and I was stuck there for like 4 months. We couldn't go anywhere. So it was like by force, e-commerce has come to your doorstep. You must use it. If you like, be the richest man in Abuja. If you like, be the poorest man. People couldn't go to market. So all kinds of bike companies sprang up. All kinds of means of making payments started springing up. Although they're still like, just using your phone, doing a USSD transfer. But people were not doing them before. And now people are used to that. So culture has changed. So we need to look at hello. Sorry, hold on a second. Where is it all going to in the next 2, 3 years? It's like one model we ask ourselves is that like an Onitsha market, for instance, or the Alaba market, for instance, in the next 3 years, will there still be an Onitsha market? Charles was asking that question. Because the truth is that an Alibaba or an Alipay, if they are determined now and say, come, all these containers going to Nigeria and Africa, they're all landing in Onitsha, or they're landing in Lagos, or they're landing in Newe or something. Can't we structure a system, throw in $1 billion and throw in a system where people can order the goods directly? They don't need to come to China anymore. And everything becomes structured by data and computing and everything. So it's like, those are the threats I'm even looking at. Those are, because they are threats we cannot run away from. Someone raised an issue in the panel, in the chat, and was saying that he had gone to Aba trying to convince them about e-commerce and everything. Their business is in threat. That one is a subtle threat. The real threat is that the Amazon you're running away from, the Alibaba you're running away from, will come to your doorstep very, very, very soon, throw in all the capital they have to try and wrench the market away from us. Look at ShopRite a few years ago. 10, 15 years ago, who thought a South African shopping chain would come to Nigeria and want to invest in 800 shops? But it happened, and it affected a whole lot of businesses. And this time it's going to be e-commerce. So e-commerce means they don't really need the physical presence. They just need service providers, logistics service providers up and down all over the place. And they can do all their business from China or from Silicon Valley. So these are the threats we need to look at. And also the opportunities that if we can circumvent these threats, how much money can we make doing it? Because the Nigerian man wants to hear the bottom line. How much is my profit? How many thousand am I going to make? How many million am I going to make? So we need to understand this better. And if you ask, he asks you the basic question, if I don't invest in a filling station, why should I invest in IT? How much am I going to make out of it? If I don't invest in this big hotel I want to build, or if I don't invest in this G-Wagon, or in this Rolls Royce I want to buy, and invest in this IT or hub you're talking about, how many much Naira am I going to get out of it? How long would it take? How am I going to manage it? These are the questions we need to bring out. So CFA, carry on.
So if I add what you just said now to what the panelists said, what Ife sort of concluded, honestly, I think we have a conclusion. I would just say that, like Kem said, we've got to be much more calculative about it. We've got to be deliberate about what we choose to do with technology and investment. And I think that honestly, for a 2-hour event, digital event, I think everyone here is, even myself, loaded enough. So I think that maybe I would advise that this should be like a discussion for another panel. That could be discussion taken on funding for specifics. So investment around e-commerce, investment around payments and stuff like that. Yesterday, a startup still raised $2 million, and it is predicated on the fact that about 60% of the African population is yet unbanked. So with payment, I mean, you can't have a successful e-commerce industry without fixing payment. So there are a lot of opportunities, right? And I also heard, where Nkem talked about the fact that we should expect to see hubs, to see that Lagos is actually the tech hub. The truth is that Lagos can be the tech hub. A state like Anambra can be the software hub. A state like Kano can be so there are opportunities, right? But every state that wants to play like Lagos has to be more deliberate. And Edo, around the south and southeast, is leading the way. Edo is showing practical steps on how a state can be deliberate for success. So I personally think that, it's been a great day. Hansen sent me time up. So Hansen is always a cloud, but it's fine. And so, Michael, over to you. I mean, congrats to you and Ken and the rest of the team for putting this together. I think that it's been a very fantastic event. And the hope is that, those who listen to the speakers would actually take what they've learned and go practicalize it as much as possible. Because the challenge that we all have is that there's a lot of talk, but, very little action. So it's about the action. That's what makes the difference. Thank you very much.
CFA, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have you because you're the man that quietly makes things happen. And those things happen and they stay happened in no other English that I can use. Just a recap, one or two things I think that needs to really be brought out. And Kem raised something very, very salient. She said deliberate, or would I want to coin an English word, deliberateness. It's like we need to be far more deliberate in what we're trying to do. She raised the South Korean example, how they became from a backwater or a very poor country to one of the richest countries and innovative countries out there. Samsung, LG, and the Hyundai, Kia were all creations of our generation. Before we were born, there was no Samsung. Before we were born, there was no Hyundai, there was no Daewoo. They're all new companies. So if you don't want to invent the wheel, someone has to ask a question. Where did they start from? In fact, I was reading the story of Daewoo, where the man was the founder of Daewoo was a textile merchant. He used to go to the factories selling textiles and bribe the people sewing his clothes with sweets. That's where he started. But before we know it, if some of us that grew up in the 80s remember how Daewoo cars were very popular in Nigeria. Daewoo Racer, Daewoo Espero, Daewoo this, Daewoo that, once upon a time. although the company had problems and crashed. But it just shows that these are things that are not impossible and can be started. She said something about sustainability, about determinedness, and about, focus. The thing is that in Nigeria, we don't measure things, we don't give things targets, we don't take data, and there's a problem with continuity. A very good example is there was a tech village that was set up in Abuja in the 2000s when Obasanjo was the president under El Rufai. It was called the ATV, Abuja Technology Village. It was a new layout along airport roads. They were building roads, building infrastructure, attracting all sorts, HP, Microsoft, Dell, all of them had promised they were going to come and set up a presence in that ATV. As I speak to you, the ATV, the roads are built, but it was never finished. It was abandoned by successive regimes. But business is a business, it's an enterprise in perpetuity. Dell would have planned and said in the next 20 years, this is what we want that place to be. Or HP would have planned and said in the next 10 years, this is what we hope to achieve in Abuja in Nigeria. But the minute El Rufai left that place, it just became abandoned. It's overgrown with weeds now. The roads are there, but it was never just completed. So you can imagine if at the federal level, they have challenges like that. What are we facing at the states? And it scares a lot of us because we now work in the states, in the ICT space. And we need to find a way to make things more sustainable, more measured, more target driven. We need to tell ourselves, if we want to have 10 tech companies, or if we want to have 2 hubs, let us know we're having those 2 hubs and keep measuring them over the years as the years are passing, understanding what their challenges are, understanding how to make them grow, understanding how to make the space bigger and bigger. How effective are the professional bodies? I think Charles raised that. It's also a problem because professional bodies shouldn't turn to social groupings. They need to actually express the issues of technology, especially the technology-based professional bodies. Markets are no longer defined by space. I raised that again with the Onitsha issue. A market doesn't need to be a geographical space or a land area. It can be in a computer for all you know. We talk about cryptocurrency. We talk about blockchain. It's all ideas inside a computer, and it can change fiat money in the next 1 or 2 years for all we know. I think that's just about it. And the long and short is that we need to have our eye on the ball, have our eye on the future, and realize that agriculture is the poverty, is taken as a business for the poor or an activity for the poor. Right. Oh, no. Oh,
I think Michael, you're breaking up a bit.
I think he lost his connection.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think, people, if this has been 2 hours, and I think we sort of need to round up. So Michael was just sort of giving his closing remarks. Let's give him like 30 seconds and see if he will come back in. And if he doesn't, then we will just close this out and send out briefing notes out of this session. But while we're on the call, maybe if CFA, because we have an ecosystem that we've built called ISN. So CFA, can we have you maybe do a 30-second pitch on ISN and what that ecosystem is trying to do? CFA.
Okay, thank you. I mean, before Michael comes, ISN basically.
CFA, your internet, your audio is choppy, so you might want to move around a bit.
No, I think it's so, there's an
okay.
There's someone giving us some local music.
Yeah, so Infinite Hot 5 guy. Okay, so I was gonna say, so ISN is basically the body of hubs. We sort of came together as hubs to help deepen innovation in the country. Today we have close to 100 members across the country. And the whole idea is to just, you know, help to encourage the building of innovation that suits each environment. So many of the guys here are already members of the organization. Hansen, Ife, Charles, you know, we're all together in the same organization. And the whole idea is to engage the policy side and also encourage the young people in various localities, you know, because at the end of the day, the truth is, even though Lagos can be a hub, for example, the tech hub, you can have people, I mean, Hansen, for example, is in Uyo, and he has software developers servicing people both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So it means that you can actually have clusters of hubs where young people can go and work out from in various states, right? All they need is good, high-speed internet. You know, so that's what ISN is trying to do. ISN is basically trying to deepen innovation. So we welcome, you know, partnerships and collaboration. You know, let's help build a better Nigeria, because I've always said it, that, you know, a better Nigeria can only come from how we leverage technology and how we sort of prepare our nation with technology. Otherwise, you know, we'll be colonized a second time. You know, the Chinese are here, the Americans already own half of our companies. It's interesting times. So it's either we wake up and make the most of it, or just hand them over our hands, you know, in handcuffs. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, CFA. Also to say that ISN is a member-driven organization. So if you're interested in joining, please contact CFA, Hansen, or myself. We're all members of the board, and we can help onboard you into that ecosystem. And it's open to everybody. You don't have to be, you know, you have to have a hub. So it's a collection of hubs. So if you're in that ecosystem or you have something that works like a hub, please feel free to get back to us. So I think Ifeanyi is back.
Okay.
And we're going to hand over to him to sort of close us out. Ifeanyi, we're fast spent on time. So if you could close that out, that would be great.
Okay. Just like CFA said, network is a problem. I was going on and on and on, not even knowing that the network had cut me off. But all the same, once again, thanks to our panelists, thanks to everybody. And we just want to say that OSE is going to be, by the grace of God, a regular feature. So computers are just one area we've talked about today. Maybe the next session, like I said, will probably be on agriculture and other sectors and areas of business we feel that are underutilized or under-invested in, and need to turn people's attention to these areas and show them what the possibilities are in those areas. Thanks everybody for your time. Thanks to our great panelists. Thanks to the moderators. We will be sending, the video is going to be available. So we'll send a link to the video, because there's so much to learn. Even I learned a lot today from, you know, the things that were spoken about and the things that came out from these discussions. And I keep telling people, you never stop learning. So keeping information and everything. Look out for more of the series on OSE, and we hope to do much more to open up the space for investment. Investment doesn't need to be 10 million naira or 20 million. It can actually be 1 or 2 million naira in an area you're sure you're passionate about and you understand. Nigeria can only improve if we, the individuals, are prepared and ready to do those improvements. Even your state can only be improved. Hansen is an example, a living example. Hansen could easily have run to Lagos and become a big boy in Lagos, but he chose to stay in Uyo, tackle the problem he had identified, and is now making money out of it, and has now made a name and left a legacy behind. So why can't we have the same type of Hansens in Enugu, in Ogbomosho, in Ibadan, in Ilori, in Gombe? I mean, it just takes people to say, let's do something new here. Let's do something creative here. We have Uber already in Lagos. We have Taxify. We have Bolt, or whatever it is they're called, the hailing services. But there's nothing like that in Oka, and I really wonder why. Fine, we may not use a lot of taxis here, but we do use Keke. Who said you can't create a hailing service around Keke? These are just examples of opportunities, but people need to look at them. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much. We thank you to our speakers, moderators, and we thank you to our supporters. We thank you, the Society for Igbo Professionals, for partnering with us. We thank you also to ANSICTA, the Anambra State Information and Communications Technology Agency, ANSICTA. They partnered with us as well because they also want to build up the digital space in Anambra State. And they have a lot of ambitious plans. So thank you. We'll be in touch, and would like you all to possibly leave your contact details so that we can reach you with subsequent programs when they come out. And it makes it faster and easier to get on board with the programs. Thank you all, and God bless. So from everybody out there, I can just say bye-bye, and I'd want the panelists just to say a closing remark and wish us all well, starting from Charles.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been splendid.
Hansen.
Salute. Thank you.
Okay. CFA.
Yeah, blessings, everyone. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for staying true. Thank you.
Kem Dili.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's been great. A lot of learnings. I'm just hoping that a lot of this is going to translate into actual action and not just, us having a great time today. Thank you.
We'll find ways. We'll always find a way. I don't know if FLS is still here. FLS can sign out. Just say a shout out and thank you.
Thanks, everyone. A greater Nigeria is possible.
That's very succinct. Very succinct. And finally, Ify. Is she still here? I think Ify is no longer with us. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Just leave your information and have a great day. God bless. And we'll reach out to you when the next session is going to come up. Goodbye for now.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.